November 23rd, a date etched in the annals of time, a day that began like any other but would soon descend into unimaginable horror. 2002. The clock struck midnight, ushering in not a new day of hope, but a night of unspeakable tragedy. The year was drawing to a close, but for many their lives were about to be cut short in the most brutal way imaginable. A night in Jammu, shrouded in unnatural silence. The city slept, unaware of the darkness gathering on its outskirts. The usual hum of urban life was replaced by an eerie stillness, a premonition of the terror to come. The air was thick with dread, the moon barely lighting the shadows. Every corner seemed to conceal a threat. Every rustle of leaves sounded like approaching footsteps. The very atmosphere was charged with a sense of impending doom. In Lower Manda, a sinister plot was unfolding, a web of deceit and malice being spun under the cover of darkness. Plans were being laid, strategies devised, all aimed at unleashing chaos and destruction upon innocent lives. Hidden from a nation at rest, the country slumbered, its citizens dreaming of peace and prosperity, oblivious to the nightmare that was about to shatter their tranquility. Little did they know, their sense of security was a fragile illusion. This was not peace. It was the silence before a storm, a deceptive calm that masked the violent tempest brewing beneath the surface. The quietude was not comforting, but rather a chilling reminder of the devastation that was about to be unleashed. Predators lurked, their eyes set on innocent lives. They moved like shadows, their intentions masked by the darkness, their hearts filled with hatred and a thirst for violence. They were the harbingers of death, stalking their prey with ruthless precision. Every sound in the darkness amplified the fear. The rustling of leaves, the hooting of an owl, the distant bark of a dog. Each noise became a source of terror, fueling the growing sense of unease and dread. The night itself seemed to conspire against them. Terrorists, sponsored by Siberia, were preparing to strike, their hands stained with the blood of innocents, their minds twisted by hatred and fanaticism. They were pawns in a larger game, puppets of a shadowy organization determined to destabilize the region, turning an ordinary evening into a nightmare. What began as a peaceful night, filled with the simple joys of family and community, was about to be transformed into a scene of unimaginable horror. The ordinary was about to become extraordinary in the worst possible way. Families gathered for dinner, sharing stories and laughter, unaware that these might be their last moments together. The warmth of their homes, the love that bound them together, was about to be shattered by the cold hand of terror. Children tucked into bed, dreaming innocent dreams, oblivious to the danger lurking just outside their windows. Their peaceful slumber was about to be violently interrupted, their innocence stolen by the horrors of war. Unaware of the horror about to erupt, they lived in a bubble of blissful ignorance, their lives untouched by the violence and hatred that festered in the shadows. But that bubble was about to burst, shattering their world into a million pieces. Outside, agents of chaos exploited the night's calm, slipping through the cracks in the village's defenses, their movements as silent and deadly as the shadows themselves. They were the instruments of destruction, poised to unleash their fury upon the unsuspecting inhabitants, ready to shatter the village's sense of security. The illusion of safety, the belief that they were protected, was about to be brutally dispelled. The foundations of their peaceful community were about to be shaken to their core. The greatest shock comes when life feels safest, when you let your guard down, when you believe that nothing can touch you. And that's when they planned to strike. They waited for the opportune moment, when the village was most vulnerable, when its inhabitants were least prepared to defend themselves. Their timing was impeccable, their cruelty unmatched. The stage was set for a massacre, not a battle. This was not a clash of armies, but a calculated act of barbarism, a slaughter of innocents who had no means of defending themselves. It was a crime against humanity, a stain on the conscience of the world. The silence was about to be shattered, echoing through history. The screams of the victims, the roar of the explosions, the cries of despair, these sounds would reverberate through the ages, a haunting reminder of the horrors that humans are capable of inflicting upon one another. The nation would soon ask, how could this happen here? How could such a tragedy occur in a place that seems so peaceful, so remote from the conflicts of the world? The answer, they would soon discover, was far more complex and disturbing than they could have imagined. The shadows hid cowards, not warriors. They were not brave soldiers fighting for a cause, but craven assassins who preyed on the weak and defenseless. Their courage was a facade. Their strength derived from the element of surprise and the vulnerability of their victims. They chose stealth, striking from darkness. They shunned open combat, preferring to operate in the shadows, where they could inflict maximum damage with minimal risk to themselves. Their tactics were those of assassins, not soldiers. The final act of terror was moments away. The clock was ticking. The countdown to disaster had begun. The village was on the precipice of destruction, its fate sealed by the actions of a few ruthless individuals. The silence would soon be broken by an explosion, a deafening roar that would shatter the tranquility of the night and mark the beginning of a new era of fear and uncertainty. The blast would be felt far beyond the village, its shockwaves reverberating through the nation. That would haunt the nation forever. The memory of that night, the images of the dead and wounded, the stories of heroism and sacrifice, these would become ingrained in the national consciousness, shaping the country's identity and its relationship with the world. The nation would never be the same. Lower Manda, a peaceful hamlet where life moved gently and trust bound the community. Doors were open, neighbors were family, and the road was a lifeline, not a threat. The village's innocence made it a target for those who thrive on fear. Terrorists saw opportunity in the calm, aiming to prove that nowhere was safe. On that day, the ordinary became horrific. The familiar road was transformed into a death trap. The attack was designed to destroy peace, community, and the Indian spirit. The calm of Lower Manda was about to be violently ripped away. The road through Lower Manda was trusted, a symbol of daily life. Terrorists turned that trust into a weapon, planting a hidden landmine under cover of darkness. The road, once a path of connection, became a silent killer. The landmine was buried with precision, invisible but deadly. This was not warfare, it was assassination. Every passing vehicle was a gamble with death. The enemy didn't seek confrontation, they sought destruction from the shadows. The road waited, holding its secret as life continued above. The villagers had no idea they were walking into a trap. The symbol of community had become an instrument of evil. The stage was set for tragedy. In the shadows, where accountability fades and darkness reigns, a perpetrator hides. Siberia. A vast expanse of land, a geographical entity, but also a symbol of something far more sinister, a breeding ground for terror, a haven for those who seek to destabilize and destroy. Landmines and IEDs are their weapons of choice, the tools they use to sow chaos and inflict pain. These aren't weapons of precision, but instruments of indiscriminate destruction, designed for maximum fear and destruction. They aim not just to kill, but to instill terror, to break the spirit of a people. The aftermath is always the same: shattered lives, broken families, and a community scarred by violence. These are the tools of cowards, not soldiers. They hide behind explosives, preying on the innocent and vulnerable. True soldiers face their enemies with honor and courage, but these perpetrators operate in the shadows, striking from afar. Siberia trains and arms terrorists, providing them with the means to carry out their heinous acts. They fuel the flames of conflict, perpetuating a cycle of violence and despair, sending them to kill indiscriminately, across borders into communities with no regard for human life. Their targets are not military objectives, but innocent civilians caught in the crossfire. Soldiers, women, all are equal targets in their eyes. Children, the most innocent, the most vulnerable, become victims of this senseless violence. Their futures stolen, their lives cut short by the cruelty of others. Landmines don't discriminate, they lie in wait, ready to explode at the slightest touch, regardless of who triggers them. They are pure mechanical death, cold, unfeeling, and utterly devastating. They represent the ultimate disregard for human life. The strategy is simple: create chaos and instability, cause mass casualties, overwhelming resources, and sowing panic. Terrorize civilians, forcing them to flee their homes and live in fear. and bog down our forces, diverting resources and hindering progress. The Lower Manda Blast, a stark reminder of the devastation they inflict, was part of a systematic campaign of terror, a calculated effort to destabilize the region. The terrorists were puppets, mere pawns in a larger game. The real mastermind sat safely across the border, pulling the strings and orchestrating the violence from afar. 19 lives lost, a tragic toll, a painful reminder of the human cost of this conflict. Siberia's responsibility. They cannot deny their involvement, their complicity in these acts of terror. This was not an isolated act, but a pattern of aggression, a clear indication of their intent. But a calculated move in a proxy war, a dangerous game with innocent lives at stake. The blood of innocents stains their hands, a permanent mark of their guilt and shame. The nation will never forget the victims, nor will we forget those responsible for their deaths. We must call this evil by its name, expose it to the light, and hold those responsible accountable for their actions. And we must stand united against it, resolute in our determination to defeat terror and protect our people. Evening fell as a bus full of villagers traveled the familiar road. Inside, people chatted, looking forward to home. The driver, confident, had no reason to suspect danger. Then, in a split second, everything changed. The bus triggered the hidden mine, an explosion tore through the night. Metal twisted, glass shattered, and lives were destroyed in an instant. The aftermath was hellish fire smoke and silence broken only by cries of pain. The road was left a cratered scar, a testament to barbarity. In one moment, routine was replaced by chaos and loss. The night of November 23rd reached its bloody climax. Out of the smoke, cries of pain and terror filled the air. Survivors, wounded and disoriented, struggled amid devastation. Villagers rushed to help, risking their lives to save neighbors and friends. With bare hands, they pulled survivors from the wreckage, defying the darkness and fear. Each life saved was a victory against terror. Soon, police and army arrived, bringing order to chaos. Together they worked through the night, rescuing the living and mourning the lost. The community's courage shone brightest in its darkest hour. 19 lives, each one a universe of potential, dreams yet to be realized, and love waiting to be shared. Their stories abruptly cut short, echo in the silence left behind. Mothers, fathers, children, pillars of families, beacons of hope, innocent souls whose absence leaves an unfillable void. Their laughter, their warmth, their very presence, now just a memory, lost in a single devastating act of terror. An act that shattered not only buildings and bodies, but also the peace and security of an entire nation. The debris a stark reminder of the fragility of life. Pilgrims, villagers, families, united in faith, community and love, their journeys tragically interrupted. They were on a path of devotion, a simple outing, a family trip, now forever etched in sorrow, all torn apart in a flash, a blinding explosion that ripped through lives, leaving behind a landscape of devastation and despair. The twisted metal and shattered glass a testament to the brutal force unleashed. Grief struck every home, a wave of sorrow washing over the land, leaving no one untouched. The pain of loss resonated in every corner, a shared burden carried by a nation in mourning. Futures were stolen in an instant. Dreams extinguished, potential unrealized, and the promise of tomorrow snatched away without warning. The vibrant tapestry of life, now marred by threads of grief. Survivors bore scars, visible wounds that told a story of pain, resilience, and survival against all odds. Each scar a reminder of the day that changed their lives forever. Physical and psychological, the invisible wounds of trauma etched deep within the mind, a constant battle against the shadows of the past. The road to recovery long and arduous, that would never fully heal. The scars may fade, but the memory remains. A constant reminder of the lives lost and the innocence stolen, a permanent mark on the soul of the nation. The nation mourned as one, a collective expression of grief, solidarity, and resilience. Flags flew at half-mast, a symbol of respect and remembrance for those who were lost. United in shock and anger. A shared sense of outrage at the senseless violence, a demand for accountability, and a determination to prevent such tragedies from happening again. Faces of the victims filled screens, their stories shared, their lives celebrated, and their memories honored. Each face a symbol of the human cost of terror, their stories told across India. The media became a conduit for grief, a platform for remembrance, and a voice for justice. The nation listened, mourned, and demanded action. Vigils and protests, a collective expression of grief and anger, a demand for justice and accountability. Candles flickered in the darkness, symbols of hope and remembrance, demanded justice. The voices of the people rose in unison, a powerful chorus demanding that those responsible be brought to justice and that measures be taken to prevent future attacks. The tragedy was not just local. It resonated far beyond the immediate community, touching the hearts of people across the country. It was national, a wound inflicted on the very soul of India, a challenge to its values, and a test of its resilience. The attack was a brutal reminder, a stark and painful lesson about the ongoing threat of terrorism and the need for constant vigilance. Of the price India pays in this proxy war, a war fought not on battlefields, but in the hearts and minds of ordinary citizens, a war that demands courage, resilience, and unwavering resolve. The nation demanded answers, a call for transparency, accountability, and a clear strategy to combat terrorism and retribution, a firm resolve to bring the perpetrators to justice and to send a clear message that such acts of violence will not be tolerated. The loss was not just a number. Each statistic represented a life, a family, a community, and a future that was tragically cut short. It was a wound in the heart of India, a deep and lasting scar on the national psyche, a reminder of the fragility of peace and the importance of unity. The memory of Lower Manda, a place now synonymous with loss, grief, and resilience, became a rallying cry, a symbol of national unity, a call for justice, and a reminder of the shared values that bind India together. The nation would not forget. The names of the victims would be etched in stone, their stories passed down through generations, and their memory would serve as a constant reminder of the price of freedom and the importance of peace. The physical wreckage was cleared, but the scars on Lower Manda's soul remained. Trust was replaced by suspicion, open doors by locked ones. The road became a graveyard, a daily reminder of loss. Fear lingered, changing how people lived and worked. Families struggled with grief and hardship, the community's spirit wounded. Social gatherings grew somber, joy muted by memory. Yet resilience endured. People rebuilt but carried the wound. The attack became a defining chapter, a lesson in how terror changes a place forever. Why remember Lower Manda? To honor the dead and deny terrorists their final victory. Remembering affirms the value of every life lost. The blast was not random. It was a calculated act of war. We must never be complacent, never lower our guard. Shared grief gives us shared strength and purpose. The story of Lower Manda is one of resilience and unity. These stories must be told, so future generations understand the cost of our freedom. Let us vow to never forget November 23rd, 2002. Let memory be our weapon of resolve, unity, and vigilance. The victims will not be forgotten. Their sacrifice fuels our fight. The nation will remember, always.